Hey guys, Julian here today. I'm going to be showing you how to make IO style acid techno. Rest in peace. We're going to be talking all about everything. I've got a bunch of new techniques, new samples in this one, so definitely stick around to the end to see everything. As always, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets, everything from this video is available at the top of the description on my website. Definitely go grab that. It's super accessible, and you get this really high quality template with pretty much everything you need to make the best track of your life. Link is at the top of the description. You can also check out my custom tutorials, ghost productions, and track finishing. All those services are available. Definitely go book one of those while you're at it. And let's dive in. Alright, so we're at 132 BPM. First thing we have up here is just the sidechain. So it's just the kick shortened like to this little click, and then everything's sidechained to that. And you get kind of a better sidechain when you do it this way. It has a lot more groove versus if we sidechain it to the actual kick. Check out what happens. So that's why we do that. Then we have the actual full kick. So what we got here is we got, a nice punchy kick sample. I have that going through this delay chain as well, which is like a send. We have a lot of different things going through that. And you can see, so that's just a bit of echo, and then even more delay, and some saturation, high pass, and then that's being sidechained as well. And that adds some background percussion, but other than that, the kick is just dry. It's just a really nice kick sample. And then we have the rumble. So this is a little bit different way of making a rumble. What I did here is I actually took this kick. This is a different kick from the one I just showed you, but it's a different sample. I took it, you can see, I stretched it out a bunch with the warp on Ableton Sampler. You can only do this in Ableton. And then you get that. You can see I also pitched it down a little bit, and then I faded it in, moved the start time forward. And then we're just low passing that. So we go from this to that. And then it's sidechained, and I'm also cutting at 40 hertz, which might seem kind of high, but actually you'd be surprised, you really don't need all that low end below 30 or 40. And when you turn this on versus having it off, you'll notice a lot more groove in your overall track, because the bass will really sit better. So we've got that, but then there's also this mid-range layer, which is the same thing, but with a little bit different processing. So this one, it's the exact same kick, everything is set up the same. But then it's going through a bandpass, so we're kind of just focusing in on that one little area in the frequency spectrum. I have an overdrive and then a low pass. I'll turn off the low pass. So you can hear that's just kind of subduing it a little so you get that low mid. And really it just is meant to sound like it's part of the bass. And then we just have it sidechained and then a little high pass so it doesn't clash. And then on the kick group, all we have is just the utility converting into mono, because you want to make sure your kick is in mono, and all your bass. And then I also have another EQ cutting at 40 hertz. Here's without it. And with it. See what I mean? All of a sudden that kick just sits really well. Then we have the main hi-hat, which is 2 layers. So we have this new hi-hat sample. Just a nice, bright 909, and then I've got some reverb on that, and then I have this operator hi-hat. And you can hear these are 2 very much contrasting sounds. They actually have a little bit of overlap in the mid-range, which is kind of where they glue together, but you can hear by putting these together, you get this big, just super punchy hi-hat like that. Because you have one thing that's really punchy, right? Just this white noise with a little bandpass on it. And then you add that with this, which is honestly pretty punchy on its own too. And then it's huge. And that's also going a little bit through the delay send. And also, another thing here is when you have the 2 layers of hi-hat, it's good because you can just put reverb on one of them. So you get the reverb on the whole hi-hat. But you wouldn't really want that on this lower one, it would get a bit muddy. So this way, you can just keep it really clean. Then we have the background percussion. So what's happening here is a bit of a groove between these 2 hi-hats, where one is just steady 16ths, and one is every other 16th note, and then it leaves one out at the end. So you can hear that groove that's happening between those. Those are also both, or the first one is going through the delay send. and then the rim shot just kind of like fills that in. Right, like when this one stops here, you're getting that delay from the rim shot, which has a little bit of delay on its own, and also is going through the delay send. So it's kind of like, this is how you can really make these different percussion layers work. It's not just putting them in there to put them in there, but everything is working together for one goal, and then fitting really well underneath. Cool. Then we have the 303. So I really want to nail down that modern 303 sound. I learned a lot making this. You know, it's easy to mess these up, and you really don't want like too busy of a pattern either. But like, even like, you see how the lengths of these notes are very specified. Like these are both 16th notes, but I made this one really like a 32nd note, I guess, so it doesn't touch that next one. And just listen to how much, like, just the length of these 3 notes does so much, versus if I just make them like touch each other, you don't get all that groove. You know, you gotta make it just like don't. Another thing you'll notice is slight velocity changes inside of the synth. I set that on the filter, so the frequency velocity here basically means wherever you set the velocity is where the frequency on the filter will be. And that also helps. You can see every time we have one of these don't, like it's like going into another 16th note like that, you bring the velocity down a little bit, so you get not just down, but down, like kind of like that, you know. Even back here. The other thing is just having the little glides at the right time, and really the call and response with this pattern. Like over here we have this don't, and then don't. Like you get, that's a lot of call and response happening, and that's why this track can be so simple. Now, for the sound, it's made with Operator. What we have here is we have a square wave and a saw wave. So that's something I'm learning about these like more modern 303s. You know, the saw wave and the square at the same time is really going to give you that big kind of sound like you're looking for. We have a bandpass filter, which you can see has a bit of an envelope. The key to this is not really that much envelope, because when it's a bandpass, if you start to turn that up, you know, you don't want that. You really want that like that, really juicy low mid-range. So just that like 18% is good. Got the decay there, a little bit of attack, and I even set the attack slope so it kind of goes into it. That's important. You get like a like kind of, you know, rolling into the note rather than just like super stabby. It's super subtle, but it really will impact the groove of your track. We've also got a bit of a hard shaper on that, but I didn't even turn up the drive. Just turning that on does a little bit of stuff. I've got you can see that frequency velocity as well as frequency key, meaning it's key tracked, so the lower notes are a little bit more closed on the filter, the higher notes are a little bit more open. I got this LFO here moving around the filter a tiny bit as well, so we get some variation. And then we have multi-band distortion. So to get these really like just full distorted modern 303 sounds, multi-band distortion is really the best. And I really wouldn't be surprised if IO and these people use a lot of like, you know, Saturn 2 and plugins like that. But luckily we can also just do that with the Ableton stuff. So what I have here is this audio effect track. We're using EQ3 to split it into the lows, the mids, and the highs. And you can see we're just distorting them all differently. The lows just has this rock amp. So that's what really gives you the like, you know, that part of it. But if you only did that, obviously it's not really like all of what you want. And also you can see that's being blended. But then on the mids, see, and then we can just distort the mids and focus on just getting that like really like vocal kind of character out of it, where this same distortion wouldn't work as well on the highs or the lows. You just want that on the mids. So that's why this is so good. And then the highs, we just have this pedal. You know, it just brings them out and makes them real crunchy and pronounced. And then you put it all together and you get this really full sound. Versus like, I'll show you if we just try to drop amp on here, like on just the whole thing, no multiband. You know, it's not really going to give you that full, really, like, what you want. Then we have an EQ8 here, just cutting out a little bit of muddy frequencies and actually boosting the highs a little. I have a bit of overdrive at the end, without it, with it. You can hear it's just that last push to really bring the 303 to life and kind of animate it. I've got this compressor, side chaining it, and then just a high pass filter. And we don't want to take out too much low end, you know, because actually some of that, like if we just try to go up here, all of a sudden the sound's going to be too thin. You want to keep some of that in, just make sure you cut like at 100 so it doesn't clash with the kick. And that's going to be it for this one, guys. I hope you enjoyed. As always, make sure to like this video as well as subscribe. And let me know what you think of this video in the comments. Like I said, you can get this full project file, samples, MIDI, presets. The entire template is available at the top of the description. Definitely go grab that. It's the best thing you can do right now to make the best music of your life today. You can also check out my custom tutorial lessons and my ghost production, track finishing. All that's down there. Thank you so much for the support, guys. I really appreciate it. And I'll see you tomorrow with another video.